Welcome to the Art of Lifting podcast. Today I am joined by Jasper. Did you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yes, I can. Hello. My name's Jasper. I am a powerlifting coach. I've been coaching now coming up to my sixth year. Yeah, sixth year in like September, I think. Sixth year of coaching or PTing in some capacity. I'm a powerlifting coach. I do this kind of full time. I've been around the sport for quite a while. I'd say good like 4 or 5 years now. That's pretty much it. I can give the backstory of how I got into coaching, but I'm sure we'll get onto that.
I'll say that is normally my first question. So that was what I was going to. Well, I was actually going to ask you firstly how you found powerlifting as a whole, because I think you started coaching fairly early on.
I did.
You were like the COVID crew, like you came around the time of
COVID. I was 18 when I started PTing, like in general, and just coaching some mates. So that would have been 2019. Yeah. So 2019, 2020 is when I officially launched some sort of coaching. How did I find powerlifting? I was in my college gym and there was just some guy who just kind of introduced me to it. That was pretty much it. He was just explaining to me how, like, I was like, oh, so it was one of those really classic training questions, like, oh, what are you training? And he was explaining it to me and he started breaking it down to movements. Yeah, so I'm like squatting today and doing some stuff. I was like, what? I thought you meant like, oh, leg day, something like that, clearly. And he was like, no. So I trained this, and he explained it to me. I was like, wait, you can actually just get really strong rather than focusing on like obsessing over some sort of crazy split of lifting. And I tried it. I enjoyed it. My technique was awful when I started. It was abysmal. I had no clue what I was doing, but it became one of those things where I could actually care more about just getting strong, and it's a bit more goal orientated rather than being like, oh, I want to just get as much muscle as possible and be big. I mean, because that's so like widespread. That was in college. So that was when I was younger than that. So I started college when I was 16. So about 16, 17 is when I started kind of training for it. I signed up for a comp and it was in late 2019 or early 2020, one of those. And then obviously COVID hit.
Yeah.
So then that comp got delayed like twice. It was one of like the super training comps. And I didn't actually get to compete until I was literally the day after I turned 20. So it was a long old time of comps getting cancelled and put back on, cancelled, put back on. And then I did compete. Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned the like, oh, what are you training today? Because I started as an in-person trainer, like in a gym, and I started powerlifting around the time I started working there. Mm-hmm. And every time I was training, so I was just training there, and it was just like a general hotel gym, but there was some bodybuilders stuff. And it was, oh, what are you training today? And I used to feel so uncomfortable when anyone asked me that question, because I knew they weren't going to understand if I didn't say push, pull, legs. Like if I didn't say one of those or just like chest, it was, oh, I've got squats and then I've got like full body after it. Like, what? And every time it was just like a really awkward question, to the point where I would just avoid talking to people until halfway through my sessions. I just didn't want that explanation to come out.
Yeah, and I think the thing is you can get away with it now, because lifting science has come so far, you know what I mean? And powerlifting so much bigger. But I mean, when did you start powerlifting?
I think I did my first comp in 2018, but that would have been 2017, I think, when I was training it.
So back then,
it wasn't known.
Powerlifting before 2020 was so small, and in the past 5 years it's just exploded, especially post-COVID, you know what I mean? So now you could definitely get away with it. If someone said what I'm training today, I'd be like, I'm squatting and then some random accessories, and then it's basically it. And most people now don't bat an eyelid, you know what I mean? But yeah, you do get back in the day you would have got some looks like, what? That's
every time.
Well, that's not a split. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So you said you did some in-person training as well?
So the pipeline of PTing and coaching was weird. So I started my first year of college doing like art subjects, graphic design and stuff. Like it was such a random pivot, I guess is the word I'd use for it. So I was doing graphic design. I was also studying history. It was very much, I got to college and I was like, what was I good at GCSEs? I don't really know what else to do. Like I had no idea of a career, not a clue. Yeah. Really like drawing as a kid. Every now and then still do it, but it's like, that was cool. But I sat there and can't really make a big job out of this, or, you know, it's very like niche and you really have to, you know, specify. And then I got to college and I was like, oh, there's a gym there. I want to go to a gym. So I joined the gym there, trained there. I started to really enjoy it during my time in college. And then from there, I also had the capacity to, I just enjoy helping people, like in general. Not in terms of fitness back then. It was just people would come and talk to me about things and I'd try and be helpful, right? So then I kind of realized there was a way to link the two without even realizing. So I did my fitness instructor level 2 and then my PT level 3. So that was 2 years of college. And I think before I started the course, I was already looking into things and trying to understand things. So the idea of just constantly trying to learn was always there. Then I did it, did work experience in a gym, and then ended up getting a job in that gym for a while. And then as I was getting to the end of my PT course, I ended up deciding to stay on and do a degree. So I ended up doing a foundation degree in sports therapy and rehab. And that was during COVID. So that was a weird time to do it because you couldn't really see clients and do anything like proper in person because obviously social distancing and all that. So I opted to not do the BSc. So I opted to not stay for the 3rd year because it was like, I've got all the knowledge I needed from this. Really, the other stuff is more specifications, like special techniques, like things like dry needling and other stuff. And I started like basic rehab stuff I know, and I can always further it by looking. And even to this day, I've still looked into rehab techniques. Decided I didn't want more student debt, nor did I really enjoy the COVID experience of university. So left that, graduated in 2022 with foundation degree. And then I just kind of went all in on coaching. I mean, I was kind of, obviously at uni, you got to have a part-time job. So I was working in Sainsbury's at the time. And then I got to the point where I just kind of got bored of that, quit that, and decided to push everything full-time on coaching. I think the last 2 years, especially, have been the biggest kind of growth. I think I would not advise this to people. I quit when I had like 10 clients and I was charging like nothing at the time. So I had nothing. I was scraping by month, but I had the luxury of then after uni being at home and just kind of saving as much as I can. And then I had a little like shit car to run. That was about it. Like there was nothing huge. I wasn't doing a load back in the day other than just training. So it was manageable. And then I think as the years have gone on, the main thing with coaching that's kind of just helped with a lot of growth is going to meets, really. I think just saving that money that I made from the coaching and actually using it to travel to meets or meet clients in person, so that like maybe we all do like a meet up train or things like that, or if they've got a comp, go there, etc. But you meet people there. I remember one of the 3rd or ever comps I went to, there was a guy after the comp and he asked about coaching. I'm like, oh, that's sick, awesome, yeah, go for it. And then I didn't hear anything for ages. And then 6 months later, he reached out again. I still coach him to this day. And that was in 2022, I think. 2022. And I still coach him to this day. So, I mean, that's kind of one of those things, is just going out networking. And I got better at it as you kind of do it. I mean, as you get older as well. I mean, when you're like 18, 19, 20, and especially since COVID, you become a bit socially awkward because you don't want to like, it's a big thing, right? And then, just chatting. Honestly, I've got to the point where sometimes I just don't shut up. It's great.
Yeah.
But that is the biggest thing is to be honest, your original question was how I got into this, and I still haven't shut up. You know what I mean?
That's fine, because the whole point of this episode, what we kind of said, would be how to get into coaching in this day and age. Like, it's a very oversaturated market. The reason I want to talk about it as well, so I very rarely, but occasionally I'll do like a mentorship call with people if they reach out and ask for one. And the most recent one I did, the biggest thing we were talking through was how to grow into a full-time coach in the current market. And my main thing I said was, for me, it's social media and being seen at meets, not just being seen at meets with your clients, but in the warm-up room when you notice someone on their own that looks like a lost sheep, go help them and show that you're a helpful kind of like caring person in it. Obviously, if that's what you're like naturally, it will just happen anyway. Like, as soon as you're confident in a warm-up room, people will see that and kind of come to it. And you kind of went into it a bit there anyway, didn't you? Like, how to, like, you kind of grew as a coach. It's the networking and things like that.
Yeah.
So you kind of led us down that path naturally anyway.
Yeah. And I think working in a gym, I mean, some people who want, like, let's be honest, a lot of people want to coach nowadays. And I think that's great. Awesome. If you want to do that. But I think a lot of people get into it for not the wrong reasons, but they don't understand the full reasoning. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, either coaching's kind of cool, I want to get into it, or I need to make some money as a side hustle while I'm at uni, and cool, valid reasons, but they're not quite sustainable reasons. And with coaching, you have to, well, the biggest one is you have to care like about people, right? And I think that's one thing that gets overlooked. I'm not saying people just like hate their clients. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is like you have to care a lot more than you think. And I think from a PTing background, working in a gym, you learn to care. You learn to speak to people. You learn the social skills, and you can kind of tell in the coaching realm, and even at meets, who's like worked in a gym and who hasn't based off their social skills. It's a really interesting like analysis I've made at comps, I guess. Caring, social skills. What else was there? I'm going blank now. I literally had it all in my head.
To be honest, it leads on quite nicely because I agree I think, you know, if you don't want to work as an in-person trainer, that's totally fine. But even if you just do it for 6 months, just go and experience it. And I think I don't know what sort of gym it was that you worked in, but I worked in quite a small little community. Like, it was a hotel gym. It was all local members. Like, it was the only gym within like a 10-mile radius. Like, you always saw the same people, and it was a proper community. I worked with bodybuilders and people that had like CrossFitters and different backgrounds. And the social skill development within that was, I was 18 when I started. Like, it was great. You learn from all different people, and you work with such a variety of people, like literally from like, I think I worked with like 13, 14-year-olds up to like 80-year-olds. The skills I got from doing that for 3 years to then pass over as a coach, whether it's literally just how to build a good relationship with different people, or how you analyze a video when you're used to seeing people move in person, the way you would analyze people's movements when you've done it in person for so long. They're such valuable skills that I think a lot of people that are just in the online space would benefit from doing that, just for even 6 months, just to try it.
Yeah, definitely. So the gym I work at, I actually still train at most of the time now. It's a small independent gym in Exeter called U7. And it's got all sorts in there. CrossFit, bodybuilders, Olympic weightlifters, a couple of powerlifters. One of the managers powerlifts. I actually used to coach him. His name's Tom. He's lovely. And I'll speak to him about a lot of things in terms of like just things to do with the gym and training. And also he's always asked me if I'd want to get back into the PTing side and stuff like that. And, you know, it creates this nice social atmosphere, knowing people. That's the biggest thing as well, is like, if you train in a gym, like I've got a couple clients from that gym without even like meaning to, just from just having conversations and speaking to people. Do that, like be chatty. I think there's some weird gym culture at the moment that like everyone's moody, don't speak to me. But if you're in like, I mean, it's different in certain like, you know, more commercial gym settings. Some people are just out there to get their stuff done. But like if you train in like a more independent gym, get to know people, because you can also you always learn. Like there are some guys in there that I'll learn from. There are some of the PTs, and they all have things. Like there's a lady there who's an IFBB pro, I think she was, or she's got a pro card in bodybuilding. And then there's another one who's an Olympic weightlifting coach. Like they all know things that you can learn from. You can't just sit there and go, no, well that's wrong because I do this. Like, you can always learn from it. One of them is just an S&C coach, and there's still things we may disagree on or agree on, but we can learn from it. So yeah, I mean, getting into coaching, care, be willing to learn, make sure you understand that there is going to be competition. That's a big one. But also like learning to get on with your competition is a good one. So I know, like back from, like you said, I think you mentioned this, like I came around the COVID era of coaches. And I know a load of them, right? And we all get on, but we're all competition effectively, right? We all live in different parts of the UK, but we all have clients around different parts of the UK as well. Like I've got some guys in the southwest, some guys in the north mid, some guys southeast. Like I'm spread, you know. But it's understanding the competition, but still learning from them. Like I've had calls with, I mean, I also run a podcast with a bunch of other coaches that are all stemmed around the UK, right? We got one in the southeast, one in Bristol, and one in YNE, right? So we're all spread out and we can learn from each other. And it's nice to bounce ideas, right? Like we will always ask each other questions. Maybe it's rehab, maybe it's nutrition, maybe it's biomechanics, things like that. And if you've got a question, just ask it. Like there are, I think a lot of people go with the assumption that they'll look stupid for asking a question. I get it, but if it means you're going to learn something, is it not worth looking stupid for like a second? You know,
that was me when I was younger though. So I knew when I first started powerlifting that was the niche I wanted to go into, because I was already a PT and that was like the area I wanted to go into. And it wasn't, I mean, that was what, 2018. I was only 18. So it took me a good few years to actually back myself. And it was probably only around 2022 that I actually fully backed myself and had the confidence to start networking with other people, asking questions, and actually put myself out there and promote my coaching. Like before that, it was mostly just friends that I was coaching. And actually, since being willing to ask questions, admit when I don't know things, like it was definitely a lack of confidence when I was younger.
Yeah.
Not only do my clients definitely trust me more, and I have more clients in general just from the growth, but like I'm so much more confident in answering questions, because it's like I can sit and say if I don't know, but I'll go find out and I'll speak to one of the many coaches that I'm friends with that I know I can network with. And I think having a good network is really important.
You said a really good point there about, if I don't know, I can just say I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I think a lot of people go, I don't know, but if I say I don't know, everyone's going to think I don't know what I'm on about, and then I'm terrible. No, there's probably more humility in saying I don't know. There are things, for example, if someone asked me a nutrition question, I could answer it, but I probably wouldn't give you the most detailed answer. Like I do have basic nutrition knowledge, right? We studied parts of it, but I'd probably direct you to someone else. I think you've had Hannah on here, right? Yeah. Probably would direct someone to like Hannah, or Queever. Queever, they specialize in nutrition, right? So I'd probably point someone in more that direction, right? Or if you wanted to learn about rehab, there's a load of people with rehab. You know what I mean? It's if you want to be good at coaching, networking's great, learning's great, social skills are great, but also just understanding that you're going to get things wrong. You are always going to get things wrong. And I know when you're like upcoming as a coach, it's really frustrating because you feel like you have to prove yourself all the time. Like, guys, I'm great. I promise you, I'm really good at it. And it's like, you're probably not as great as you think at the moment, and that's fine because you're new. You know what I mean? It's you don't want to get to the point of, like the Dunning-Kruger effect. Yeah. So for people that don't know, the Dunning-Kruger effect is like a graph, and it comes to this idea of knowledge over time. Usually when people start a subject, they think they know everything. Their knowledge on the graph is super high, and it's a really short period of time. And it actually turns out the more they kind of delve into the area of the field, they actually don't know as much. And then you realize you're actually a lot kind of more clueless than you think. But that's good. That's a good thing. You should be clueless in a field that you don't know much about or haven't spent much time in. Like time and experience trumps all, right? Like I said, 6 years, and you've been here, 8 years it would be, I'm guessing.
Yeah, about that, yeah.
Yeah, that's a long time, right? We're not talking like, in the past year, I watched this many videos on this sort, and now I know everything. No. And also, experience. You know what I mean? Everyone's different. Like I've dealt with clients who have had some insane injuries, and I've dealt with people that are the most resilient people in the world. You know what I mean? Like nothing will cause them to get an injury, which is great, right? But you've got to work around it. Like you can't just assume everyone responds the same way to everything. You'll have your models, right? Everyone has their own kind of model of how they want to structure things. There's no right or wrong, because sometimes you can still achieve the same outcome. There may be a more efficient way, but that's again a debate. And it's also, you've got a person in front of you. I think that's the big thing with coaching and knowing whether or not they did PTing, is you've got to understand you've got a person in front of you. Yeah. Rather than just either a number on a spreadsheet or like, I don't know. The only way I could really treat it is like, people kind of talk about athletes like they're Pokemon. You know what I mean? Like, oh, my athlete did this. My athlete did this. I was like, yeah, okay. They're also a person, right? You're not like just sending them into like battle at a meet, right? They are people. So you got to just basically understand people. Right? Yeah. It is, and from PTing, you definitely would have found this in the PT realm, right? Is you actually end up being, to some degree, a little bit like a therapist. Yeah. If someone's had a stressful day, they are going to tell you. Now, of course, there's boundaries, right? But they are going to tell you, they can be like, listen, I've had this go on, this go on, this go on. And you go, okay, I understand. So here's what we can do to accommodate. Don't be the person that's like, well, that doesn't matter, right? Because you're probably not going to be well liked if you are like that. And two is, if you show willing and understanding, positive word of mouth. So therefore as well, people are going to be like, oh, this person's really understanding. There's someone I want in my corner, right? They believe in their clients. They understand their clients. They're willing to learn about their life experiences and, accommodate, right? Sometimes it may just be, oh, I've got so much on, what should I do? And then you can kind of work towards it. But you have to be willing to, right? So understanding people, and to some degree, understanding some basic of psychology and understanding. Like if you're not very empathetic to people, God, you're going to suck at this job. I'm just so real. You are going to be shit at coaching if you can't empathize with people and help in the mental side as well.
Yeah. So I actually filmed a bit of content that's coming out this week, literally reel, about this and how, as an online coach, you need to build rapport with your clients the same way an in-person trainer would. And I was speaking to a friend about it the other day that also does some coaching, and his like process and stuff aligns with mine quite a lot. But he was saying that something that he kind of struggles with is the boundaries. And I was like, boundaries are important. My clients come to me with their personal issues because it's probably going to impact their recovery in some way, whether it's something really stressful in their personal life, work, whatever it is. But I don't do that back to my clients, obviously. Like, that's the boundary. The boundary is, you come to me. No, I'm not going to sit here and solve all of your problems, but I am going to tell you how we can adapt and overcome things and adjust things to help you still progress while you're going through them.
Yeah.
And kind of just like a sounding board for them and an ear for them. I'm not going to offer you solutions to your personal problems, but you can come to me with them and just get it off your chest. But I'm obviously not going to do that back to you. And that's the boundary. It's just having that line there of, you come to me, I'm obviously not going to come to you because you're paying me for a service. And part of that service is me caring about you as a person. And even if it's not from the empathy side, it's, I need to know what's going on because it's going to impact how you recover and how you progress within your training, right? Like, even from a really basic, like, obviously I do genuinely care. But even if that's something you struggle with and you're not the most empathetic person, you still need to create a culture where they can come to you because it's stuff you need to know.
I think the only time where blurring of boundaries can be hard is if it's like a close friend. So, for example, if you coach a really close friend, you probably are going to share more personal stories with them. But what I would suggest for that is separate the communication. You know what I mean? So I have WhatsApp only for business. And then for everything else, we go for Instagram or whatever, right? But also, soundboarding is great. Like, obviously it impacts recovery. Sometimes as well, being relatable. Like if someone says, yeah, I've had a really bad day, I've had this happen, maybe a death in the family, something like that. I'm not saying go tell them of all the people who've passed away in your family. What I'm saying is, you be relatable, be like, listen, I get it. I've had that happen. I get it. This is kind of maybe what I did for it. It may help. Again, I'm not going to solve your problems like you said, but here's maybe something that might help, especially when it comes to how you approach your training. If you can link it back to training, stay on topic, you're going to maintain that professionalism, right? Rather than just going on this long rant about this, and this. So yeah, boundaries are really important. Being relatable, just being a human, just being like a functioning human being. Don't be a robot. That's weird. That's really weird. I remember I went to Powering Through for All England, and I was speaking to one of the guys who was working there. Lovely gym, lovely PTs. And they had a lad on work experience. And he was basically asking how to get into that kind of realm of things. And I went, just don't be a robot. Don't be someone like that. Because the thing is, the reason that some PTs do really well, especially even the ones that don't know a lot, is they're just friendly. Yeah. And if you can be friendly and approachable, and you may not know the most amount of things, but both those things, you're going to get clients. You're going to get some sort of buy-in, because nobody wants to be coached by a robot just because they know a load of things, because you are not a robot, right? If you were a robot and they're a robot, maybe it'll get on really well. But that's like a small percentile of people, if at all exist. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you have to care. And actually, do you know what? Just showing you care and being consistent. Social media is great for advertising and things like that. I've kind of taken a step back from advertising and content and stuff at the moment, just because I needed a bit of a break in general. I've just been really busy. But when it comes to content, it's finding the way you can make a niche. Like, again, this isn't to slate what you're saying, but like making posts, I just don't like it. I just find it really boring. It's not something I enjoy, but I know that you may really enjoy it. I know a load of other coaches really enjoy doing it, and it's how they get in their promotion. It works really well. I decided to try podcast stuff. Again, need to be on top of certain like posting and advertising that. And I may return to some topics, but you find as well that you go to do a topic and someone's already posted before you finish editing. You know what I mean? So it's like you can either oversaturate it more, or you can just understand, hey, maybe I can't make content in that same way. But there are many avenues. Do you know the easiest one is Q&As? Yeah. Q&As are so easy. It's just whether or not people ask you questions. Some people get really nervous to ask questions because, again, it links back to that they feel stupid. Yeah. Just ask a question. This is literally like a free goldmine of someone saying, ask me a question. I'm a professional in the field, and you have a chance to do that. There's not many times you can do that in any other field of Like you know, like you wouldn't go up to a doctor and be like, oh, Q&A, how do you do a heart surgery? And you're like, what? Like that's never gonna happen. So yeah, Q&As, coaching wise, and also just talking to other coaches. I think I think my first ever time handling was 2021 Junior Nationals. This was the first Junior Nationals after COVID. This was in Ashington. We drove all the way up from Exeter. That was like a 12-hour drive. It was awful. That was the first time I handled. That was the first time I handled. I threw myself into the deep end, and I remember going up to Pate, being like, "What do all these things mean?" He was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "I've never handled before." He's like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah," and I'm helping him handle a bunch of his guys because we were coached by Ben at the time. And he gave me the run through it, and I was like, "Do you know what? If I never asked that question, I would have had no clue what I was doing." So I just had to be okay with looking stupid for about 20 seconds of my life.
Yeah,
that was it. And I don't remember the full moment. I just remember the context of it. You know what I mean? Like,
but it's also completely fair. Like, you came in at a point where comps were literally all cancelled, right?
Exactly.
It took, like, a lot of people that came in around that time didn't do their first comp until they'd been training for a couple of years. You're not going to have had the experience to go to a meet, even just a temp sheets. Like, yeah, now you look at them, simplest things ever. But the first time you see them in front of you, you're like, what do I do? What do I have to do? Like,
don't get me started on running numbers for the first time. That was terrifying.
So when I was at Uni Worlds literally a couple of weeks ago, I'm quite good at maths, and I can like when I'm watching Worlds, I'll always have good lift up or whatever up, and I'm like roughly kind of figuring things out in my head. And I think I looked so dumb because it was my first time as lead, and Owen was kind of assisting, kind of watching over me, and he was trying to be so helpful, and he was explaining to me exactly how he runs numbers. And it was so funny because apparently he did the same thing with Alice at Uni Euros. You know when someone's trying to explain maths to you, but they just keep saying numbers? This is what Owen was doing. It was just numbers, numbers, numbers. But if you look at this, you get this number. Then if you look at this, you get this number. And he didn't really give me time to even look at where he was pointing. And he works it all out on like projected totals, whereas every other coach was like, oh no, we just look at subtotals and work out the difference. Yeah. Which is obviously the easy way to do it. But Owen likes to like plan what's going to happen ahead of time. And that was the first time I'd been in like it wasn't super high pressure because he was obviously checking everything I did anyway. Like I knew that. But I felt like I looked so dumb because I was like, Owen, I don't understand what you're saying to me. You're just throwing numbers at me and I'm getting so confused. People are like, okay, well, work out this. And he'd ask me a question and I'd just say a number and hope it was right because I'd have no idea what he was talking about. And then when I told the boys later, that's the thing. But then when I went to the boys later, they were like, oh, yeah, no, that's just how Owen does maths. Like, no one understands what he's talking about. I was like, okay. So
but in Owen's head,
yeah.
how he does it, right? So it's finding your way of doing it. Like the subtotals thing, that's what I do. It's so much easier. The projected totals, I've actually not seen it done. And I would be intrigued to know how you do it because it sounds a bit chaotic, but I'm sure once you get the hang of it, it's pretty like easy. Yeah, a lot of it is like guesswork. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I've handled it enough nationals and done a lot of numbers enough that it's like we put this number in. Cool, you pulled it. Now you just gotta wait and see. It is just like we gotta wait and see. Or we'll put in a number and hopefully you can pull it. I remember I was competing at this junior nat, so I didn't get to handle him, but I was watching it just before we drove off. I had a guy in the 74s. I think he was like 5th after subtotals and he pulled into 2nd. It was crazy. But the math, I was watching the math as it was doing it because, again, I just sat there running math in my house whilst waiting to drive to junior nats. And things like that, like running that math, being, oh, he needs this, he needs this. If he secures this, this, and this, and then it happens and you're like, oh my God, this is like a great feeling. Like, yeah, the idea of, the thing is, like, it's a high pressure situation, and you're also like, if I mess this up, I don't want to feel stupid. But also, you're not going to learn unless you mess up, right? No, you're 100%. Biggest thing is just accept you're going to make mistakes if you want to be good at it, or even like learn. Like you can make some terrible game day mistakes. You can go back and be like, okay, I know now why. Like you can watch something and be like, I mean, handling people in person now, it's way easier to gauge how much they've got left. A general note compared to when I started, where I'd be like, oh, I don't know. And now it's like, okay, you probably got like a 10 or you got 5, or bench is usually the one that's the most deceiving because there's so many variables. Yeah. Usually when you think there's a 5, there's a 2.5, so just take the 2.5, right? I mean, I know, like, how did you find the Uni Worlds experience? Because that's pretty cool to have done that. It
was a lot of fun. I think pressure was relieved slightly because the day, so I arrived after the first day, just basically to save a bit of money, and I wasn't needed for the first day. And I think one of the girls, can't remember who it was, think she went 5 for 9. So as soon as I got there, and Dan handled her, and if anyone doesn't know, Dan is the head coach of the uni team. And because she'd missed so many attempts, they were like, oh, well, we fucked our average for the whole week. Like, because they like to compare the average of attempts made versus the year before. And I think the year before it was an average of like 8 out of 9 attempts. And because of that one performance, he was like, oh, I've just messed the whole week up. So then there was like, because they were joking about it, I was like, okay, that's less pressure on me to make sure that everyone goes like 9 for 9 as perfect days. But no, it was really fun. I think it was a really good first time handling internationally as well, because Dan was head coach, because the analogy he used was like, it's like teaching someone to drive. I'm not going to smash the emergency brakes unless you're going to make a massive error. Like, let's say with like final deadlift attempt or something. Like, if you put in something ridiculous, I'll stop you and I'll say something. But otherwise, you're not going to learn. Like, you have to just kind of do it on your own. Yeah. And it was really interesting. Like, so the first day I was there, I was assistant to one of Owen's lifters. So I was basically just keeping her calm and just hanging out with her kind of thing. And he did explain to me the numbers and stuff in between, which is obviously really good to learn, because it's also just a whole different screen. Like, I've not used that system before in person. Like, I've not used it in person. I've not had to look at what's where and stuff like that before. Like, it was really interesting to learn. And then literally the second day I was lead. And then all the rest of the week I was down as lead, which you have an assistant in every session anyway. So, but it felt really odd to me that I was down as lead with like Owen as my assistant. And I know why. It was to teach me. And because Owen was leaving for half the week, so he wasn't going to be there. So it was like, oh no, you have to learn because we're going to need you to take over. But I think because I had, like, they were so laid back, and obviously they care and they didn't want anyone to miss attempts, but I knew it wasn't going to be if you mess up these attempts, you're never going to be invited back to do it again. Like, I knew that wasn't the case. Like, it was just do the best you can, learn on the job, listen to people's feedback and stuff. But no, it was a really good experience. I think the team we had made it a lot easier as well. The lifters as well that I was lead for, they all sent me everything I needed beforehand as well. Like, they all sent me like their training in the weeks leading up to it as well. So it became quite easy to judge what they had left because I'd seen all the videos. Their coaches all sent really good detailed, like, rough attempt selections and stuff over, which also just makes it a lot easier. And there was a couple of lifters who had nothing, which you can still do it, right? You can still make it. But anyone listening, if you are a coach or a lifter competing internationally, just have a rough plan. Just have a rough plan. But no, that was a bit of a tangent. Basically, I just want to say, like, it was really fun. And I think I was worried I'd find it really hard doing it in the moment, especially with other eyes obviously checking what I was doing. But it wasn't. Like, as soon as you, like, obviously I can ask a question if I'm not sure. And like on the last day, I handled Rudy in the 120s.
I love Rudy. I love Rudy.
Firstly, all of his final lifts looked exactly how final lifts should look. I literally said to him, I was like, you're the person I'm the least stressed about because your lifts are looking exactly as they should. You're technically sound. You've got like a sensible plan. He's also a subtotal guy, really. Like, he didn't have the biggest pull. He had a big squat, big bench. So that's in my element. That's fine.
You see how the PT skills come out there with rapport. And like you said, you were assisting, I think you said you were assisting with Owen's lifter, and your job was basically just keep him calm.
Yeah.
Like that's such a, that sounds like someone will just kind of overlook that, but it's such an important day. Like, I'm sure anyone who's done a meet, regardless of your level, you get nervous.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you, if you don't get nervous, that's weird. That's really weird. But yeah, that is actually like the thing with like internationals, from what I've seen, is the kind of nice part is that there is multiple handlers per person. You know what I mean? So it's like, for a lifter, you've got someone who's always going to be watching things, so you don't have to worry about someone just walking off. And you've got someone right in front of you who's going to be like, so what do you need? Here's what you need to do. You sit there, you do this. So that way you kind of are like attended to all the time. But no, that sounds sick. Like, the idea of an international always sounds sick. And I know they're trying to open up more coaching opportunities for coaches for things like Western Euros or home nations. And then Commonwealth, I think, is next year, right? Something like that. Yeah. So they're definitely trying to get more people in, which is pretty sick. Like, it's really fun. I have handled internationally once, but not in that sense. In the sense that I literally went to a different country to handle at a national. So before I clickbait everyone with the idea of handling internationally, I didn't do that. I went to Irish Nats this year. Yeah. Oh my God, that's the most fun I've ever had in my life. It's in like the smallest venue in the world. It was in a hotel that I didn't realize I was staying at. And I have a couple of lifters there. I coach a fair few Irish lifters. And we all met for like the first time after coaching for like 3 years. And the atmosphere there was like so friendly. Like, I'd speak to people. They could obviously tell I wasn't Irish, right? Yeah. And they're really friendly. They asked like how the travel was, and you know, well, they were like, oh, it's a long way from me. I was like, yeah, like I've coached a few people, and I really want to kind of make the effort. And also, I hadn't been on holiday in like 7 years, so I thought I might as well. To sunny Dublin, rained on the first day when we got there, but yeah, it was a really nice experience as well to also just see what other feds are like. I imagine when you're at uni world, interacting with other teams was pretty cool as well, because you get to see, well, they probably have different methods, or even just kind of different methods of coaching, or how they treat athletes, and kind of, again, networking, right?
Even seeing people that I didn't realize I knew, like there were people that I've followed from different countries for ages, and they were just there on the coaching teams, and I was like I didn't even register in my head that you were going to be here. And like, you realize how small the powerlifting world is, especially because like I'm not that involved in the uni scene anyway. Like the GB lifters, I knew 3 on the team, I think, roughly, obviously, and then I spoke to the ones I was handling before I went anyway. But like, I didn't know many of the lifters on the team. Like I never went to uni. I was never part of the scene. I coach a few uni lifters, but they're all at different unis, like kind of train alone. So it was just really nice to go to that, expecting to not really know anyone apart from the GB coaches. And actually, there were quite a lot of people that I either knew of or knew enough to at least like say hello as we went past. And it was just like, powerlifting is such a small world, which is also where I think as a coach, if you don't care, going back to that point, it will get out that you don't care. Like you have to, you know, the powerlifting community isn't that big. You want a good reputation, and with that, you need to show like your clients aren't going to go, oh my God, my coach didn't know how to solve my back pain instantly. But they are going to say, oh no, my coach really cares about me. Like if I have a problem, I can always go to them. Like that's what you want. Admit if you don't know something and show that you care are like the 2 biggest things, just to link that back in.
How you carry yourselves at meets is also really important. Like, also again, depends on who you're handling and the rapport you have with the client. Like there's a guy, he's taking a break now, he's doing a marathon, but I've coached him. He was the longest client I ever had. I coached him for like 3 and a bit years. We were at All England. He had a rough prep. He didn't really care about the day. And I was like, right, I'll just meet you where you're at, right? We spent the whole time kind of just laughing. Like we didn't really take it seriously. But then the next time I had another guy, one of the guys I do the podcast with, completely different, right? Completely different. Really serious, really locked in. Actually, like was very much like less talking unless it was about like the game plan and what we wanted to achieve. So again, it is meeting people where they are. And I think if you're handling, the biggest thing is actually having a conversation beforehand with like a plan. The attempts helps, maybe previous training, so we can kind of look at how you scale, maybe attempts, RPEs, whatever you use. And then the other thing is just kind of building that rapport and kind of having a conversation, because you don't want it to be really awkward when you first handle them and be like, I don't know you and I don't know you, but I'm going to handle you on the day. So you know what I mean?
This is where in person helps, I think, as well, because the first time you train someone in person, you have that almost, I don't know if you ever get this, but like I am a little bit socially awkward, which I don't think people would believe, because I've always had, like, obviously until now, almost like customer facing roles. Like I've always dealt with people. I've worked in shops, I've worked in gyms. Like I've always had to have that like customer service version of myself.
Yeah.
So there is a part of me every time that I'm like, oh God, what if it's really awkward? Like, what am I going to do? What if it, like we can't make conversation? Which has literally never happened, because I know through my years of work, I can literally talk to anyone about anything, and instantly it's absolutely fine and everything's calm. But had I not had the experience of working with people in person for so many years, I don't know how I would deal with that. And I do think with the online thing, a lot of coaches get into it. Like you kind of said, like a lot of people, I think the most common route into coaching is you're at uni, you love powerlifting, you've done it a while, you need a bit of extra money. Totally fine. You'll probably mostly coach your mates in the uni club, right? Like that's generally the way in, which a lot of people that's how they started. Like a lot of the coaches that are still around now, that is how they started. And I think that's great. But then what happens when you then get a client online that you've not met before, that you didn't go to uni with, that you didn't already have that relationship with? Like you need to have the people skills to be able to almost instantly have that relationship as soon as you meet them in person.
There are a few guys I know who started by coaching at their unis. Yeah. But there's a difference between those guys and the guys that just do it because they want a bit of like a side hustle. These guys they actually want to learn and will take the time to invest in like learning and coaching and trying to understand things. And a couple I've spoken to and you know, again, similar to what you said about the whole mentoring thing, like I've got a couple of clients that like I'll be like, I'm trialing some mentoring stuff, do you want to be involved? And they'll be like, yeah, go for it. And even then like conversations with other coaches for things I don't know. Like I say, prime example the other day, obviously, like I said, Hannah speak to about nutrition. She asked me a question about programming accessories the other day. Like it was just such a simple conversation, but it was a nice back and forth, and we can learn from that. You know what I mean? Someone who's willing to learn will probably always be better than someone who's just doing it for the money. You know what I mean? Obviously, right? I'm not stupid. I'm aware I have to do this for money, right? It is a job at the end of the day. Of course, I like earning money, right? But at the same point, I'm not just going to try and take on everyone as much as I can, get a really full roster that I can barely respond to just because money, because it gets spread too thin. Like you have to understand your workload. Now, coaching is not a super difficult job, but it's also not a super easy job. It does take time, and you do have to be self-organized a lot. But yeah, you have to be willing to learn. There is a big difference between those that just kind of do it. I think you said is like they're good at powerlifting and then coach. Are you good at powerlifting and want to coach, or are you good at powerlifting and want to teach it too? It's a bit different. Like you have to have the want to teach. You know what I mean? Like there has to. I think the big thing I've noticed in a lot of coaches, especially nowadays, is like they just like the general idea of helping someone, right? It's a very fundamental thing, right? If you don't have that, you're probably not going to do very well because you're just thinking about it as a side hustle. But also there are plenty of other jobs that probably pay a bit better that you should probably do as a side hustle than powerlifting coach, I'll be honest. But yeah, I definitely think it's a job that if you want to get into, you have to really put everything into it. You know what I mean? Not to make it sound deeper than it is. Like it's not like this huge like mountain to climb, but you are dealing with people, and if you don't learn people, you actually can do more harm than good. Right? I think it's been in the fitness industries for years, right? Where people just spread misinformation because it's what they think is right. You don't want to be that guy. Nobody wants to be that guy or girl, right? Nobody wants to be that person that goes out and says, it's this, it's this, it's this. And it's like, it's not that at all. That's actually objectively not what it is now, because this is now what updated science says, or this and this. So keep up with things is also a big one. Like the big thing at the moment, and obviously it gets taken to extremes, is the idea of like science-based lifting and like the hypertrophy culture. It's like that bell curve meme. Have you seen it? Where it's like one guy's like really like stupid, and one guy's like really smart, and then there's the guy in the guy in the middle that's like really overcomplicating everything. It just comes down to just like get stronger, push near failure. That's it. That is it. And everyone like overcomplicates it. I think learning is good, and sometimes you have to be able to simplify it. It's really difficult to find that sweet spot, but the more you do it, again, it comes to experience, the easier it becomes. You know what I mean? Like your application of certain practices will only be refined by doing it, right? It's quite like learning to drive. You don't really learn to drive during a driving lesson or when you're doing your test. You do it after, because you have so many real life situations with less controlled variables, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can research everything there is about coaching. Like you can literally go through every single thing there is online, but until you actually have to put it into practice with 10 very different people, you're not really going to learn. Like you have to just learn through working with people, which, to be fair, when you start out as a coach, that's why your price starts lower. That's why you have an entry level price for people. And you know, as you would with any self-employed business, you would just gradually, as you have more value to offer, you will increase your prices, right? Like it's just growing over time rather than coming straight in. And I have this with some friends that are fairly new coaches, and I'm a bit of a people pleaser, so I just sort of nod along and let them talk at me. But it's like they're trying to prove they know so much to me, and I'm like, I'm not the person you need to be selling yourself to. Like you don't need to prove anything to me. Like I'm not, it's nothing to do with me. I'm not going to hire you, for one, because I'm stubborn, but also like you don't need to prove. Like even with a client on a consultation call, I'm not sitting here explaining to you how much I know. I'm explaining to you how working with me works, how we communicate, what you're going to get and what I would expect back. You obviously come to me because you trust that I have some knowledge, and then you'll realize when we work together what knowledge is there, and I'll answer any questions you've got. That's how it works. Like you don't need to prove you know everything all at once. And I think that's where a lot of people make mistakes when they're newer as well.
And they also overcomplicate things. There's a lot of people I know that they like really get into like science behind things like that. And they've just learned this thing, and then they're just throwing out all these buzzwords, these fancy names for joints. And I'm sat there like, yeah, I've been doing this for such a long time. What the hell are you on about? Like, what are you on about? And they're like they're this, and they start pointing it, and they've just used a fancy word for an elbow. And I'm like, so your elbow? Yeah, but it's called this. It's like, what? Just be really simple with it.
Yeah. See, this is where I was never great at science. Like, I was pretty academic as a kid, but like science was the thing, especially like biology, that side of things, I wasn't great at. And even when I did my PT course, it was that side that I struggled with the most, right? And for my first few years of coaching, where I had no confidence, and I was still new, I didn't need to know much, but I had no confidence because I'd talk to people that were also coaches that would try and show me that they were smarter than me, and they would overcomplicate everything and use like really sciencey specific terms for the most basic stuff. And it took me probably 3 or 4 years to have the confidence to go, just dumb it down. Like, I don't need to know it in that much detail, so my clients don't need to know it in that much detail. Like, I want to know more than they know, because that's the whole point. But I don't need the super sciencey specific terms for stuff all the time. Like, you don't need, and I'm not going to sell that to my clients either. Like, I'm going to not dumb it down for them. Like, I want to teach them, but you don't need to know the super specifics of every single muscle in the body to be a good coach. Like,
make it digestible. You know what I mean? Like, if I have someone who's saying, oh, I don't know, my knee hurts because of this, I'm like, okay, listen, it could be all sorts. And if you look online, it will probably say your knee's going to fall off. So don't do that either. But what we can say here is this is probably what's happened, or maybe you've just aggravated a joint or you're inflamed, rather than going, oh, you know, the patellar tendinopathy has happened because of this. And it's like, they don't care. They don't care. They just want to know, I'm in pain, or this doesn't feel right. How can it feel better? So just make it simple. Just make it so simple, because the simple answer becomes the most achievable one for them. You know what I mean? And that's not as an insulting way to a client to say, just because they don't know as much as you do, it's going to be, in the sense that, like, if someone was explaining it to me, just make it really easy to understand. Otherwise, I'm like, what are you on about? Like, if I went to the doctors and they gave me a load of different names for things, I'd be like, okay, what does that mean? Like, what can I do? And then they give me the simple term. I'd be like, okay, well, that sounds less scary and more achievable. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's the main thing is don't overcomplicate things. Like, listen, if I'm talking to other coaches, happily do it. Cool, awesome. If we want to go sciencey, sure, I'll go sciencey, and I'll try and keep up, because it's been a while. I've like had to dust the cobwebs off that part of my brain, because, you know, I don't interact in super sciencey conversations all the time. But sure, I'll give it my best go, and if I don't know, I'll be like, what are you on about? Or I'll be like, can you send me that so I can actually understand what you're on about, because I want to learn about it, because it might as well. And yeah, digestible, and being, again, looping back to the idea of being willing to learn and not having a dogma, like the idea that this has to be the only way. We can only train like this because it's the only way to get stronger. It's like, no, you can't. Like, you can do loads of things. You'll find actually with powerlifting, you can do a lot less than you think you can to be good at powerlifting. I always like to look at it as like, the biggest thing with powerlifting, right, is it's a skill. It's all a skill, right? It's the same as like any sort of sport. Like, say you do, you play rugby, you have your S&C sessions, you know, that's building all your kind of foundations, you know, muscles, tendon strength, etc. And then the skills and drills and the actual practices and, you know, practicing plays, that's actually the skill, and like the patterns in the brain and things like that, that's actually going to cause you to be good at the sport. Powerlifting is the same. The squat, bench, and deadlift are all just skills to learn. So yes, you need to do them, but you probably don't need to do like 8 sets of deadlifts on a day. You know what I mean? You could probably get away with doing 2 or 3 sets and then just hammering a load of hypertrophy work, right? I think we've got into a realm of hyper specificity. This is kind of a topic I don't know if we want to lead on to, but everyone thinks more is more, and what happens is it is for a really short period of time, and it's a great tool if you know when to use it. And then when you either hit a wall or break, you don't know what to do because you don't have any more to add, right? There's bottlenecks. We covered this on the podcast we did, and we talked about how bottlenecks are a thing, right? You get to a point where you can't progress because your base isn't wide enough. Like, there's nothing else to do, right? You're just going to keep pushing to the point where you either make tiny progress, like 2.5, or you're going to get injured. And usually it's the latter as opposed to the 2.5. So taking time to just actually step back is a big thing. And I think we have a very rushed, I mean, this is a whole thing in general with just the current generation of wanting things done really quickly, like short-term fixes. So everyone now it's very obsessed of, you know, doing what works all the time and then never stepping off. And then in 2 years, you quit the sport because you're burnt out and you've neglected a load of components of fitness. So like, there's a load of people I know that get into powerlifting. You see a lot in like younger lifters and uni lifters as they get into powerlifting, they jump on a really specific program. And then within like a year or two, they've injured something. They don't have very much muscle. They're, you know, quite objectively small when it comes to lean muscle tissue. And then the only thing they can think of to get stronger is like turbo bulk. And then you end up with a load of people who have just got, excess body fat that they don't need. And then they're quite unhappy with the way they look. And then you go into that cycle of, I'm going to do like a high rocks because I want to be healthier. You know what I mean?
See, this is something, sorry, just going to, while I think of it, this is something I've had a conversation with, I think it might have even been when I had Lewis on when I first started the podcast, like close to a year ago now. We had this exact conversation, and it's people that have been around for a really long time in powerlifting, like, and I would say I've been around for a really long time in terms of how long classic powerlifting's been around, like basically pre-COVID people. The reason a lot of us are still around is because we fell in love with the gym.
Yep.
We fell in love with training, with the bodybuilding side, with the growing and building muscle. And then we found powerlifting. Mm-hmm. But now that powerlifting has grown so much, often people get in the gym because they want to powerlift, which is absolutely fine. That's great. But with that, you need to learn to love the gym as well and the other elements of it. Otherwise, like you said, you're going to burn out or get hurt. You're not going to have that base of other areas to lean into. Like, it's a very low hanging fruit, just focusing on basically growing out and just building that muscle mass for a while. And it's also fun. It's a change.
Yeah.
And I think there needs to be I think it is coming back to more of that now, to be fair. But I think there was a few years there where it was very hyper specific.
Yeah.
Gym. I remember I did I'm not going to name any names, but I worked with the local uni here for a couple of years when they first started their lifting society. And I did just a template program. And bearing in mind, it was lifting. It wasn't specifically powerlifting. There were a few powerlifters, but there were also just general gym goers. And I did a template program, and it was essentially it was power building, right? Which in my head, good powerlifting is basically power building for most people. But it wasn't benching every session. And someone specifically criticized it that coached a few lifters because of the fact that I didn't put bench press on. It was a 4-day program, 4 days a week. And I'm like, these people, a lot of them haven't been in the gym for more than a couple of months. I'm not having them bench press 4 days a week. Like, they don't need to. Like, that's just completely unnecessary. They don't need that when they're first in the gym. Like, there's no need. And I remember, it was criticized for that. And I was like, firstly, it's a free program. And secondly, it's literally just a base of building everything with SBD in there so that they can get that practice.
I've spoken to a couple of uni clubs. A couple of coaches for uni clubs.
Yeah.
Because I coached Exeter in 2024. Was that the one in Cardiff? I think that was the one in Cardiff, right? 2024, right? And I made the club program then. And I've spoken to, so I'm coaching them again this year, and I've spoken to a couple of people who are coaching for certain unis, and I was talking to them about club programs. And I said it was actually the point you made, which is you've got to remember who your audience is. By the way, coaches, if you're looking to really, really advertise and like build a good rapport, do it with uni clubs. Like, you can get a lot of clients from that. Coaching uni clubs, even if you don't get like loads of clients, you still have you're still doing work and getting your name out there, and word of mouth is huge, right? Pretty much 90% now of clients, or 90% of that growth I mentioned in the 2 years, has come from word of mouth. Like, it will be that.
Yeah.
But working with uni clubs is great because, again, you get your name out there. You'll probably get clients from it. Working with a uni team and them doing well as well is like really good, because it's like, obviously I was not to credit for the entire of Exeter uni placing wherever they placed, but it definitely helps that I was there handling some of the athletes. I cared, even though I didn't coach them. I helped with run numbers, and I coached a few guys there anyway. So again, it's another way, like working with some sort of club, even if it's not like a uni club, even if it's like a local gym club, something like that. Just try and find like a community to work with, and it's great. And also, it will allow some sort of in-person stuff to some degree. Like, I've started doing seminars now. Like, a couple of unis asked me to do a seminar. I did one in Cambridge. I did a rehab seminar. The president, Shebang, who at Uni Worlds, right? Yeah, Shebang asked me to come do a Cambridge seminar. And I did it there. It was really well received. I did one in Exeter. I've been asked to do one in a couple other unis, which is pretty cool. But things like that, like I wouldn't have been able to do without word of mouth and speaking to people. You get what I mean? Anyway, yes, uni clubs. Sorry, I went off tangent. Don't make your programs super hyper specific. That was the conversation I had with them. It's like, these people are new. Like, they don't need bench 4 times a week, squat 3 times a week, deadlift 2. And now apparently there's a new trend, 3 times a week deadlift for some people, which is cool if you want to run that, but they don't need that. they will probably do well with 1 times a week deadlift and some sort of hinge, because people suck at that in powerlifting. Probably 2 or 3 times a week bench, which sounds crazy to say 2 again, but 2 with a lot of pressing accessories and just getting bigger. And squat twice, maybe even some people 1 time, and just get them on like a hack squat, pendulum squat, leg press, things like that. I think getting away with less is crazy now because people don't realize how much you need, right? I think I've worded that really, really wrong. But what I meant is you don't need as much as you think you need to be good at powerlifting. I think this year I've taken pretty much the whole year up until the end of the year to compete, because I was 105, I got really heavy, hated it. Cut down, I'm now 93.8, so I cut down a whole weight class, and I've just spent the time like really pushing the accessory stuff. And I'm probably minus squat at the moment, my strongest ever. And I'm doing less. Granted, right, I've also regulated programming. I've been more on top of nutrition. The guy I work with, he's also specializes in rehab, and someone like me who's not really built well for powerlifting, having that to soundboard off of and have that knowledge actually has really helped. Like, he gave me like a drill the other day, and suddenly my pain that I've been having in my shoulder just disappeared. It was crazy. And even though I've like studied rehab, there are some things you overlook, because you get into that thing where, I mean, you self-coach, right? I don't know if you get this, but I got it when I did a period of self-coaching where I was so neurotic that I just couldn't. You like go in, you like go into this like maze, and then you can't find your own way out, right? I
also ignore any triggers that I would want any client to tell me. I'm like, I'm resilient, I'll be fine. I mean, to be fair, I am pretty resilient, but I'm also stupid. Like, you just ignore everything going on, like any kind of warning signals in the back of your brain. You're like, I'll be fine, and you just write it off. And that is the worst thing about being self-coached.
But this isn't me trying to advertise for you to get a coach. What I'm saying is, the thing that helped really well for me is having someone that I could be super collaborative with, but also be like, I hear you. Sometimes when a client has an idea, right? This is a side topic with coaching. Sometimes when a client has an idea, you don't have to agree to it. You just have to listen. I've got a guy I coach, and he coaches as well, right? Lovely lad to coach. I've coached him for quite a while. And he will like have a question, be like, can I do this? And I'll be like, okay, I hear what you're saying. No is the answer. Like, we'll get that out of the way. But I see why you've suggested it. And I can see why you'd want to try it. But for now, I don't think it's appropriate, or I don't think it would be ideal, right? But it's just that being willing to have a dialogue. If you just shut it down, be like, no, that's stupid, they're going to be like, why?
This is where the relationship skills come in, though, isn't it? And building that trusting relationship where they feel like they can literally come to you, no matter how stupid it might seem. They can come to you and ask any question, even if it's nothing. Like, we obviously used the example earlier of like coming to you with personal like issues, but even if they just have a question around what they're doing, it needs to be a safe enough environment for them to ask anything, no matter how silly it may seem, and them to get a reasonable response back, not a no, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like, no, we're not going to do that. Here's why. They should feel that they're going to get that like safe space and safe answer back.
You have to be understanding. But you also have to be, you and them have to be accountable at the same time. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to be like, okay, if I create a space for them to be able to open up, I've got to be aware they might say something that, you know, just needs to be heard, or actually may be a better idea. Like, I think sometimes as well as a coach, you can't have an ego, like, because there are some things clients may suggest that actually may be right, and you have to, damn, you know what? Okay, let's try it. It doesn't mean you're shit. It doesn't mean you've done something wrong. It means that actually this is something to look at. You'll find this with clients who've actually who coach more because they understand it a bit more, and that's fine. But there'll be times where like, can we try this because I think this might work? I'll be like, okay, cool. I've got nothing against it. Unless we're like 4 weeks out, I have nothing against trying it, right? Because why not? There are also times where I've gone, no, we can't do that because it just either that wouldn't work because I know what you're like it just wouldn't work for how you're built or your lifestyle, or it's one of those things where it's like it needs to be more thought out. Like, you know, when someone gives you an idea and they're like, they're almost there, and sometimes you may just need to hop on a call. I'm fully, I think that's the thing that coaches should be more willing to do. I get if you've got a lot of clients, it's hard, but you should also, you know, be willing, like, it's your full-time job, you know. If it is your full-time job, you kind of have to do something, right? You've got a lot of free time, right, guys? Just hop on a call and then you can figure out. I find with a lot of like clients I have, if there's a problem and I can't understand it, and we've ticked the box with everything, or so we think we have until we have a call and then we realize it's like a variable that they haven't looked after. if we've said, sleep's great, food's great, steps are great, stress is low, hydration, nutrition, everything's perfect, right? Training's just something is trending downwards. Sometimes looking at a sheet is really hard because it's so objective. It just kind of completely ignores other factors. It doesn't account for mental. Now you can have the scale of 1 to 5 on there and things like that. Some people have that, they're good, but some people just don't fill them out, which is brilliant. So that doesn't help you. Sometimes it could be that they don't even realize it, but they've lost like a kilo from stress, or lost a load of water weight or something like that. Or maybe they've just had a really long day at work and they're really tired. You know what I mean? And then sometimes just going on a call and understanding. I had a guy, we hopped on a call and he went, so when I bench, this feels like this and this feels like this. And I sit there and I go, okay, so what is it that it feels? And I'll have like a flow chart, right? I think actually you had Marcellus on. I think he may have talked about this kind of flow chart. The idea of like, if things feel heavy, you probably need more.
Yes.
If you feel like lack of a pop, you probably need more. If you're really sore, you probably need less. It's the very much, is it understimulated or overstimulated?
Yeah.
Very simplifying. Again, idea of simplifying concepts, right? And that kind of process with a client on a call can sometimes be so much easier than over message. Yeah. Sometimes over message, especially if they're like chaotic and panicking about something, feeling kind of shit, which, it's normal. Sometimes you can be like that. It's hard to kind of have that conversation. So it's like, okay, let's remove you from the gym environment first, sit you down, have a conversation and learn. And that way I can learn from it, because I can be like, okay, I know you don't respond well to this. And then I'll have like a notes tab on their program where I can just type in and be like, he doesn't respond well to this. He doesn't respond well to this. Don't do this because this happens, or, it flares up injury, blah, blah, blah. This is the biggest thing. And this goes to athletes and coaches. That will take time. You aren't going to always figure out straight away. Now, sometimes you can have some magical blocks, which just, first block in everything, you hit the ground running, you've analyzed past data, or they're just new to training, so anything will work, right? But it takes time. And I think if you're not getting it right in like the first block or the second block, clearly something's wrong, so they need to figure something else out. And it's like, no. It's going to take time, and you actually have to be willing to converse. Like, as an athlete, you need to tell me things. And as a coach, I need to try and be understanding of why and ask the questions. Some coaches don't ask questions, which I find really weird. And some clients don't say anything other than, here's my list. And it's like, also not helpful. Like, just tell me a lot. I have a joke with one of the lads I coach. He sends me long list. But I sat there and we had a call the other day. It's like, it's better that I say nothing. Sorry, so it's better that I send that than nothing. I was like, absolutely. I'm just doing it to wind you up because I find it funny. Yeah. But you're right. I'd rather know everything. And then I can tell if you're either A, overthinking it, or B, if it's an actual notable factor for the session. Right? If you go, I've had a long day at work, we've been sat down all day, so my back kind of ached when I squat. Completely valid. But if I notice every single day, he's like, I've got, this happened at work, then this happened at work, this happened at work. I'm like, at some point you've got to sit there and go, okay, how can we find a way for you to not overthink that and compartmentalize? You know what I mean? Without going, well, that's just silly, ignore it. You know what I mean? You have to. I think one of the lads I spoke to said this. He went, you have to, and this sounds really like counseling, you have to validate people's experiences and emotions, because otherwise they're not going to be receptive to anything you say after that, right? If someone goes, I've had a really shit day, it's just really drained me, and the last thing I want to do is train, you go, oh, get over it and just do the session. Nobody is going to want to do a session if you tell them that. If they go, listen, I get it, listen, do the session. If you need to skip accessories, do it, or just do one set and just go ham on them. Just really enjoy it. Just find a way to kind of vent, or when you get home, just switch off. Just literally switch, do something. Or if you need to move a session, do that. You can see the type of responses you'll get, right? Again, understanding people, you have to be, again, this does link to like some sort of like being like a mini therapist in some ways, because you have to understand people, right? That was it. That was that's pretty much the big point is understand people. And you're going to deal with a lot of people if you coach for a long time, right? You get some people who are absolute machines and they just go in, everything's nailed all the time. There's not really much to say. I think the looks good, that meme of the feedback looks good. There's two minds about that, right? And I've had conversations, because the guy who coaches me in the US, I said, do people do that a lot in the US? He went, it's universal. Like coaches all over the world will say that sometimes. It's not a bad response if it's applied properly. You know what I mean? Like if you do daily feedback and someone sent you 3 bench sessions every single week and nothing's changed, it's nothing really to change technique wise. This was really good. I'm excited to see how the next session goes, or let's see how this goes going into your primary, or this, and this. There's not much. Don't try and create a problem for no reason. You know what I mean? But if it's like someone sent you the most good morning squat where their leg is like doing the stanky leg and you go, looks good, they might not know better, but every other coach is going to look at you and be like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? It's application. It's always application. So it looks good can be good when it actually looks good. You know what I mean?
I like that you brought that up, because this is another thing that I wanted to make some content on at some point, because I had this exact conversation with someone that also is self-coaching currently recently. And we were talking through different coaching options. So you obviously said earlier that, you know, hinting at maybe people should get a coach. I actually am at the point where I think after British, I will genuinely do that, because I just want that space in my head back from my own training. But we were talking about different coaching options, and like, I always have a few people in my mind that I'd probably reach out to and have a call with, whatever. And this person was like, oh, I wouldn't go with them because they sent this lifter like a squat feedback looks good. And I was like, okay. And they thought that was outrageous. They're like, I'm paying you money. I want to know why it looks good. I want to know exactly what I'm doing well. Like, I want all the feedback. And I was like, the way I coach is after every single session, we'll have a conversation. It'll be over WhatsApp. It's constant communication. I'm not going to send you a detailed analysis after every single session of the week, because that is just information overload. We'll have targets that we're working towards. Like, let's say there's some key pointers on squat that we're working towards that we'll establish at the start of the block or as they come up. I'm not going to reinforce them every single time unless you're clearly ignoring them completely, right? Sometimes if it looks better, yeah, it looks good, keep doing that is enough. And it's just a really funny thing. I think if you do weekly feedback, or like just speak once a block and just send like all the main stuff over, fair enough. That's not a good response, right? But if you have an open dialogue anyway, and like with me, if I said that to someone and they were like, oh, but what looks good about it? I'll just answer, right? It looks good can be enough. If it's all you're getting all the time, yeah, fair enough.
You're either the most like amazing technically darting lifter, or someone's lying to you. Like it's one of the two, and I can guarantee the first one is a very small percentile. You know what I mean? But yeah, it is an application thing. Like sometimes it will be, or even like this looks better. Like you are active. I can see you're active. If you're really worried about using looks good, this looks good because this, right? If you, at least I think when the thing that people get really pissed off about looks good is it doesn't feel like someone's watched the video or cared.
Yeah.
So this looks good because this. If someone goes, this looks good, and they go, why does it look good? It's like, well, you've done this, you've done that.
Yeah.
Explaining it, cool. There you go. You can cover your bases for people that don't like looks good. The thing you said about pricing.
Yeah.
The whole like people are like, well, I'm paying this much for this. You could be paying so much, but if you're actually doing everything, what else do you want them to say? You know what I mean? You know, I think pricing is also like a really big one in the UK at the moment. Is obviously the US is like a big like market, right? You charge a lot more there. Like the average coach in the US is like $160, $170, which is about £140 in the UK.
Yeah.
In the UK, to my knowledge, the most expensive price is about 150. I might be wrong, but about 150. And people are shocked by that. They're really shocked by that.
Yeah.
Granted, everything in the US is way more expensive, right? It just is a more, you know, it is. But I think people need to understand that coaching is going that way. And that's a good thing. That is a really good thing. Like people should charge more than they do. Like the amount of people I speak to who are like, oh, I charge this. I'm like, but the amount you should charge more.
Yeah.
I've been told I should charge more. And it's like, yeah. And I get it in the sense of I'm scared to charge more because what if everybody leaves? What if I just lose all my clients and my business comes burning out? It's like, okay, then the people that see the value in your price will change. Or if you want to do it like this, you've had a client that's 4 years, cool. Maybe just introduce it to new people. Now, some people shy away from that and they think it's bad, but also like it's a loyalty thing, right? If I've coached someone for 4 years, unless the price difference is now insanely different, like they were on 40 and everyone else is on like, I don't know, 100. I'm not going to be like, yeah, you have to keep paying me for it. I'd be like, I might need a bit more money because I know more. You're getting the same level compared to someone else, or we've got to make an adjustment here so that it's fair. And a lot of people are quite receptive of that. The thing is, if you care, if you're good at what you do, willing to understand people, you're going to have good client like retention, and people are more likely to stay on even when there's a price increase. But yeah, there's 100% more coaches I think that should be charging between like 80 to 100. Absolutely. There's a way more that I think should be charging more than they should. But I think because uni powerlifting has got so big and people are more budgeted in uni, it's like, oh, I don't really want to do that. And it's like, okay, that's fine. I used this logic for someone because he was umming and ahhing. I do coach him now. He's really umming and ahhing about coaching. He was like, it's quite a lot of money. And I went, okay, but you probably spend the amount that you're paying a month on a night out, and you do that either twice a week, twice a week, every week for a month. And that's way more money that you chucked down the drain. And as soon as I thought, he was like, oh, damn. Yeah, you're right. I was like, yeah, and you want to be good at powerlifting, right? He's like, yeah, then get a coach. It doesn't even have to be, but you have to understand you have to pay money, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think pricing is one. I mean, I don't know. What's your kind of stance on it?
To be honest, I kind of agree with what you said. So my logic behind it is always, again, I started as an in-person trainer. So firstly, if you've got an in-person PT, you're paying, I mean, in my area, it's pretty cheap. It's like 30 quid an hour, which for PTing compared to a lot of places isn't that expensive, right? But let's say you have a session a month. Well, that's at least 120 quid a month, right? If you hire a bodybuilding coach online, you're not getting one in anything less than 200, like as an absolute minimum. You're not going to get that, right? Powerlifting is a new sport. And I think the problem is we can't skyrocket our prices super high because powerlifting is like, and this is something I was going to mention anyway, but not everyone that powerlifts wants to be elite. Some people just love powerlifting and they like that way of training. They just want to be as strong as they can get, but it's not a priority in their lives, right? And you're going to coach people who you more program what they enjoy rather than what's optimal because that's what they want to get out of it. And that is totally okay. They're not going to be paying £200 a month for a coach. Yeah. They need to find, and if it ends up being that, you know, they don't want to stay with you because it's not a serious hobby for them, they can't afford it, that's fair enough. But it's where you said about client retention as well. So I think the best way to be a successful coach and long-term is just from client retention. Like you can be super popular online and get in all of these clients, but if they're not staying and you have a really high turnover, at some point that's going to fizzle out and your client list is just going to shrink and shrink because there's going to be a reason and word of mouth is going to spread that there's a reason these people are going, right? The way you said before about how, you know, if someone's been with you, like someone a long time, they might not have their price increase. So what I say to clients is the price you start at is what you stay at. So even if I put my prices up over time, you will stay at where you started. And what's actually happened with that is the people that started with me at like 50 quid a month, pretty much all of them now actually are paying me more and I haven't even asked them to because they see my price, like my prices are on my website and they're like, no, like I get value from what you're doing, so I want to give you more. No, they won't pay the full, but they'll like, and it just shows that if they have that trusting relationship with you and they see they're getting the results they want with you, they're going to pay what you're worth. And most powerlifting coaches probably, well, I say most, some powerlifting coaches probably aren't charging what they're worth because of the fear of, if I put my prices up, is everyone going to leave? Am I going to not get any new intakes? And I had that fear. Like I went up to £100 a month, which in my head, it was like triple digits. That's crazy. Like that's so expensive, which it's not, especially for how long I've been around, like all the feedback I get from my clients around my services and everything. I was like, no, I am offering enough to do this. And it was terrifying. And I sat there and I was like, what if no one new signs up? I know my old clients aren't going, but what if anyone new won't sign up? Then obviously they did. And I was like, okay, no, this was the right move. But it's just that scary taking the leap to do it.
So this,
and I think a lot of people are scared to take that leap to do it.
This is the big thing. Sorry to cut you off. It's the same thing. It's the idea of what if it goes wrong? What if this, and this? But you'll also find that people that do sign up are probably a bit more serious because it's more expensive. Yeah. And then because of that, you're going to have someone who's going to stay on a bit longer and enjoy things a bit more. But yeah, I totally get it. Right? I've had this every time I've raised prices. Right? I've raised prices end of last year. I'm going to raise them at the end of this year just because I know more and I've done more. Right? And the next price range jump for me for new people is the triple digits. So it is scary. Yeah, I'm sat there like, damn, triple digits. You know what I mean? Like, who do I think I am? And then you have to sit there because you get imposter syndrome. I think that's a big thing with coaches and understanding you. Sometimes you're going to feel like you don't know what you're on about. So this is the thing. You have the two extremes. You have the person that thinks they know everything, they know nothing. And if the person that thinks they know nothing, they know quite a lot. Right? You are sometimes going to flip between the two. The middle ground is great. Yeah. But like when it comes to things about kind of showing your worth, I think a lot of coaches are like, I don't want to do that because who do I think I am? You know what I mean? And it's like, no, you're actually pretty good. You're a lot more understanding. And there are people I know who charge more than you that don't do as much as you do. Yeah. So actually you should do it. Right. And this isn't to like slate people who charge a lot. Right. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I find when you don't charge as much, you actually do more to almost prove the point. Right. But But you'll find that when the reason that it seems like you're doing more is the more you do this and the more you charge, the more systems you put in place, that the business kind of runs itself. You know what I mean? Like my sheets now compared to my sheets when I started, they run themselves. I don't have to do anything. I just have to update them like once or twice a week and then make a new sheet when someone's run out, or like when it's like finished. It's great. But back in the day, I would have had to do all sorts. I don't even remember half the formulas I would have had to use. And I got someone to make this sheet as well, and then they explained it to me. It makes it so much easier. But that becomes more efficient, and then therefore I can take more people and they can all get the same quality. You know what I mean? But imposter syndrome, and again, linking back to getting things wrong, yeah, 100%. There's been times where I've talked to people and be like, I've got massive imposter syndrome. I feel like I've just forgotten what I'm doing. Like, who am I? And they'll go, okay, go back to basics. Like, look at the basics. Why do you do the things you do? Like, you are good. You are this. You are that. Without kind of like, not in a boosting ego way, but just kind of that reaffirming. And I think, you know, if you have like a client leave, like summer is a big one because loads of people go on holiday. That's fine. Like I've got a couple of people, they're coming back. I think I've got like 5 people coming back in end of this month, beginning of September, and then end of September, because they've all gone on holiday.
Yeah.
Now, when 5 people leave, you definitely sit there and go, damn, that's 5 people gone. But if they're coming back and they've done it before and they've come back, over time you get to predict the kind of when people leave and when people come back, and etc. But it is still scary because it does make you think, damn, did I do something? And it's not something to go, oh my god, what did I do wrong to the client? It's just a natural thing because you're literally watching the number decrease. So I think when it comes to coaching, you've got to understand that, yeah, sometimes you're going to have imposter syndrome. Yeah, sometimes people are going to leave. Yeah, they might come back. Yeah, they might not. But it's okay. Like, always get feedback from someone who has left or is leaving full time or is moving to another coach, because you'd rather think about what can I learn from. Sometimes it'll be like, I just want something new. I just want something new, or, you know, I'm pivoting into a different direction, or I just want to save some money. Those are usually the big 3 that why people move. Fine, cool. Wish them well.
Yeah,
they do well. I've had clients that you know, they had like a stressful time and then they had a comp that maybe didn't go their way, and you know, they ended up going off to someone else, and I didn't sit there and go, damn it. I was like, okay, cool, I get it. It's almost like a reset. Sometimes you just need a reset. It's nothing I'm going to take personal. And I still see those people like around at comps, and we'll have a great conversation and be like, your training's going really great, this is awesome to see. And they're like, yeah, I really appreciate it. And also, like, I've learned a lot from you. And it's like, it's a nice dialogue. You still maintain that rapport even after coaching. You don't want to burn bridges when someone leaves, because, you know, again, that may lead to you working with, said, a uni club or a sports club of some type, or it may get you, you know, more likely to be invited to some sort of coaching, I don't know, network or coaching calls, or maybe even international opportunities, things like that. You know what I mean? Like, just be friendly. This was, again, that advice I gave to the person empowering through is just don't be a dick. Genuinely, best advice, don't be a dick. Be just really likable and you'll do well. Now, again, not everyone's going to like you, right? It's not the end of the world, but try and be approachable, likable, understanding. And again, that word of mouth kind of carries you off into this idea that, hey, this person's friendly and they know what they're doing. I'm probably more inclined to go with them because, you know, they're empathetic, etc.
Yeah, I think reputation at the end of the day is going to be the thing that makes or breaks someone's coaching career. Like, it is, because it's not a massive sport, especially in terms of coaches. Like, I think when you get to a certain level, there are certain coaches' names that will pop into your head quicker. You want to be one of the names that pops into people's heads. You probably need to make an effort to be nice to everyone. And I think I'd like to think for most people that comes naturally, right? Like, you just be a decent person. It shouldn't be hard to do that. But you should care about the reputation you have among other coaches and also among lifters and stuff as well. Like, Uniwells is another example. I'm pretty sure, I don't know, but I think Lewis put my name forward because he couldn't go. And I got on with Lewis well. And I've literally only ever spoken to Dan on the podcast, and I think I bumped into him at British. Like, we didn't know each other well, but I have a good relationship with Lewis. I have a good relationship with Ben and a few other people on the team. Like, I was invited to go to be part of the team because I'm assuming they thought, oh yeah, we get on with Sean, she'll be fine. Whereas if I had any kind of questionable reputation, they probably wouldn't have bothered asking because they're not going to want me there, right? Like, those opportunities come up if you have good relationships with other people within the business. And that's where networking, outside of even just learning from each other, comes in really helpful.
Yeah. Again, it is just about being that very friendly individual who's willing to help everybody. you kind of want to like take on the persona of the people's coach. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the person that people could go to and ask a question, and you're not going to be like, I'm going to ignore that because why would I give out information for free? Don't gatekeep. Gatekeeping is terrible. Don't do that. It's really cringe. Don't do that. If you can do that, like education should be free. You know what I mean? Like to the people that do make social media posts, props to all of you because you are teaching people. I'd rather you teach people than kind of hide it away. So fair to everyone who does that. That is kind of a big one. It is, you've got to kind of treat it like you're trying to be part of the community.
Yeah.
Like an active member of it. You know what I mean? Like, especially in British powerlifting, which is definitely a lot smaller than US powerlifting, being part of the community, helping, volunteering, things like that. That's important. Running comps, things like that, again, really important. Helping your division. Again, uni clubs, things like that. But finding ways to kind of help out does well also. I mean, I can't think of really anything else after that other than just
be a good person.
Be a good person. If anything has taught me anything, the Superman movie has taught me, just be a good person. You know what I mean? And things kind of go well for you. And it just applies to everything in life, really. Just be a good person. Be a good person in powerlifting, and you probably get more clients. You probably get more opportunities in general. And positive word of mouth is huge. And also, like, again, even when you make mistakes, if you're able to willingly own up to it, it shows more. You know what I mean? Like if you're someone who's like, I made a mistake, but I can't ever admit to it. I have to be the person that always gets it right. You're not quite being a good person there. You know what I mean? You're just, the egos kind of come in. So you have to kind of have that control over things. Now, equally, you have to be confident, right? You can't be, there's a line between ego and confidence where you have to be there and like, I'm good at what I do. Right? I'm objectively, I have the experience. I've done it a long time. So yeah, find that middle ground. But again, you can only really like find confidence in evidence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's impossible to be confident when you start because you're like, it's like a student going to teach a class. They don't know. They don't know what they're about. But if you've done this for enough times, like a long enough time, you kind of build that self-security. Like again, social awkwardness, like you said, like it happens. But the more you interact with people, the easier it gets. You know what I mean? So yeah, we've kind of reiterated a lot of points over this last like hour and like 20 minutes, something like that. I mean, is there anything else, any other topics you had in mind?
I don't think so, really. I was going to ask you where you go for the education side, but I'm assuming it's more of like a networking thing at this point, which is kind of where it's fallen for me. Like as much as I listen to every podcast because I have it on while I'm working. I watch YouTube videos because I have them on while I'm working. But I also think that's quite an interesting thing of, you know, where would you go for more of the education side? But then I think once you've done it a while, it kind of you just become a bit of a sponge anyway.
It's a good question. And my answer may not be as straightforward in the sense that, well, I mean, it is, but in terms of like the sources are a bit more varied because I don't just look at lifting stuff. You know what I mean? So like, if I want to be really knowledgeable in powerlifting, I've got a bajillion coaches I could know and speak to. Some in the UK, some in the US, some in Ireland, some in Canada, like all sorts. Like I've got people I just chat to because Instagram's a wonderful thing for that, right? In terms of like understanding hypertrophy and stuff, there are a couple of accounts on Instagram. My mate, who's like a big nerd on this, he'll send me articles. Sometimes I'll read them. Sometimes I'll look at them and be like, not today. I just don't feel like reading it. But that's also stuff to look at. But then looking at practical applications, questioning things, asking questions, right? I'll still ask questions. Again, I've done this for 6 years. I still ask questions. I don't care if I'm wrong. I'd rather learn, right? And then the other thing is just like in terms of like people skills, I do actually listen to a lot of podcasts about human psychology in general. Like I just like understanding people. Like people have always said to me, maybe you should be a therapist or maybe just make a career change. And I go, oh, maybe when I'm like 30. But that actually kind of helps. And similar to what you said about podcasts, like in the car or when you're like doing work in the background, things like that can be really helpful. But I actually now find that with powerlifting and powerlifting coaching, looking around at things that aren't that help me be better at that, if you get what I mean. Just psychology, the way to speak to people, the way to understand people, timings, things like that. Like sometimes, you can absolutely get wrapped up in a moment and completely miss the feedback, or someone sent you a session, the first thing you want to do is be like, okay, well, this is what you need to do better. And they're like, was it a good set at all? And you're like, oh, no, it was. But the first thing my brain goes to is, let me analyze. Yeah. But it was a good set. This was great, but it just what happens. My bad. That's not what I meant. Yeah. So yeah, things like that. Just learning, but in a way that you like to learn. Some people don't like reading. Right? I've got books that I'll read a bit, and then I'm like, I don't want to read it anymore. You know what I mean? And then sometimes people just like listening. You know what I mean? So it's finding a type of content that you can digest. Social media posts, yes, cool, awesome. There's a load of accounts that do that. Podcasts, again, there's a load of accounts. Obviously, there's a load. I mean, Marcellus does powerlifting now, for example. Yeah. That's one. It's a subscription based one, so you have to pay like 12 quid. I think that was one that I used for a while. I don't really use it now, but it was one I used for a while to get a bit more understanding. And then I can't think of anything else really. Oh, practice. Just literally practicing things. Like, as long as you tell an athlete why, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I want to try this and see how it goes. Like, there's a couple of guys that I coach. One's doing a comp in like a few weeks. I went, you're probably really bored of training right now. I can see it by the way you go into your sessions. After this, we're going to swap to something completely different. That's going to be so like, nowadays everyone be like, what? You're changing everything? Why would you do that? It's like, okay, I get it. But he hates training. Why would I then keep doing something similar that makes him hate training? That is, it's you said about this with the whole, like, sometimes you have to think of enjoyment over optimal. Sometimes the most optimal thing is enjoyment. Yeah. In terms of like, if I gave you, okay, say you went, okay, I want you to make me squat 250. I'd be like, okay, this is the most optimal way to squat 250. And you go, okay, but I hate all of it. Is it now the most optimal thing? No, because you're going to skip half of it, or you're not even going to put full intent in all of it. So it became the most optimal program to the shittest thing that's ever been written, right? Yeah. Again, you see that a lot, like you said, with the PT side, right? Yeah. People will come in, you may have a plan for a session PTing, and they're going, listen, I've had a bad day. And you're like, do you know what? We'll bun this session off. We'll do something that's just completely fun. What is it that you really love doing? Cool, we'll do that. PT, you've got a lot more freedom because it's a different type of periodization, especially if you're working with general population, right? Yeah. And goals might just be, I want to gain more muscle or lose some body fat. Bit different to, I'm powerlifting, I need to be prepped for this comp, because sometimes you have to be like, well, you're 2 weeks out, we can't really bin off a session. You kind of just have to force your way through it until it's over, and we can just chill, right? Sometimes you need a bit of resilience because this is a really repetitive sport. Like, this is the thing as well with powerlifting. Well, I'm trying not to go on a tangent here, but the thing with powerlifting at the moment, with the keeping everything the same, being super hyper specific, rinsing blocks, works. I agree, it's great, but it's fucking boring, right? It's so boring, and you have to have a special form of kind of focus to be able to do that every single time and not get bored. Now, some people are like that. Awesome. I'm jealous. I wish I could do that. But God knows, so I'm doing this comp in December, then I'm going to take like 3-4 months off just to do some lower stuff, because it's a component of fitness that's been a bit neglected. Like, I still do my accessories, I push them hard, I enjoy them, but I want to just see what happens if I just push things more. Maybe if I cut even more weight and see how I feel being leaner, and then come back to powerlifting with more muscle mass, a lot more kind of healthier approaches to training, not hating powerlifting, not being bored of it. Right. And this is just even to say to people like, listen, I've done powerlifting for a long time. I've coached it for a long time. I'm not going to stop powerlifting coaching just because I've switched my training. And my clients know that just because I'm not powerlifting means that I've suddenly forgot how to coach it. Effectively, this is the thing for coaches, because I've had a couple of coaches say this to me. I don't powerlift for my clients. No, I don't do it for them. It's not about them. It's about what I want to do. Right. I could suddenly switch to high rocks. I'm not going to do that, but I could certainly switch to high rocks and still coach powerlifting. It's not about doing it. It's about being in the know with the knowledge. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people's arguments, it's like, yeah, but you're not practicing what you preach. I just did for about 4 or 5 years. I think I can manage a break here for just a bit, just for myself. And, you know, if you're also taking a step back and say like after British, you go, actually, I'm going to swap type of training I do, because I need a break. Like powerlifting, I'm achy, I'm tired, I'm bored. That's the big one, is I'm just bored. I'm going to try this. You might come back to powerlifting and be like, okay, well, I've got a load of new methods that I've learned from doing a different style of training, and now I can apply it. And then suddenly you're actually leveled up as a coach because of it, right? I think the more I talk, the reason I as well talk about accessories, and I've talked about it a lot recently, is because it's half a program that people neglect and pay for. You know what I mean? Like people are like, well, I'm doing this, and then they come in, they do their like 4 sets of 12, and it's like the most like half-assed, very low intent. It's like, okay, well, you're not getting anything from it. It's not, to me, arguing about the rep ranges or the set count or the volume or whatever you want to call it. You just aren't putting enough intent and effort in there. You don't care. Now, if we changed it so it looked a bit more kind of achievable and less boring, yeah, you'd achieve it. You'd probably do better. I don't care about the science, if the science is correct or not. It's just, what am I trying to achieve?
Yeah.
So maybe instead of 4 sets, we'll just drop it to 2. And instead of doing 12 reps, we'll drop it to a bit lower and you can push it a bit harder. If I said to you, do you want to do a set of 5 on, I don't know, curls, or 2 sets of 20 on curls, you're probably going to pick the set of 5, right? Like, it is an extreme, but it's just like, people don't have that attention span to want to do a lot of sets. And also, some people just don't have time. I got people that like will work 9 to 5s and they get back. They're like, I don't want to do like 3-4 sets of accessories. Okay, we'll do 1 or 2, and they'll still work. It's still something, right? It still stimulates some sort of like response in the body. So that's the biggest thing, is being adaptable as well.
Yeah,
just be adaptable and apply the knowledge you learn. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Cool. You can mess up so many things as long as you understand that the person in front of you is a person and you communicate with that with them. Like if you randomly change program and don't tell them why, and they're like, what the hell's going on? And they get weaker and they get really upset with it. And you still don't explain it to them. Yeah, that's not good. Like if you say, listen, we're probably going to be weaker, or the day that should feel strong, probably won't feel strong at the moment, but the other day might, let's push that. And just see what happens. Like we have time to just mess about and see what happens, because it's still just information at the end of the day. I think people think if they're not strong all the time, listen, I've fallen into this trap. You've probably fallen into this trap.
I'm in this trap all the time.
Yeah. I'm not strong at the moment. What? I did this when I was peaked, tapered, on a comp setting with an atmosphere, didn't do a load of back downs beforehand. Why don't I feel this strong? And it's like, oh, wait, I've just said why. You know what I mean? I remember I had like a really stressful time and I was explaining to my mate. I was like, yeah, it's this, this, and this. I named like 6 different things. He went, do you think it might be that? I went, no, don't be silly. It can't be that. He went, if it was a client, what would you say? I was like, oh, it's definitely that. 100%. If you're a client, it's definitely that. But that doesn't apply to me. It's different rules. No, that's not the case. So yeah, it is context dependent. Like I did bench the other day. I failed my top set and I got up and I just laughed. I went, I hit a PR about 4 weeks ago. I can't expect to be strong now. I don't really care. But if you had talked to me 2 years ago, I would have been so annoyed, just so upset about it and been like, oh, I failed this bench. I've gotten weaker. I'm like, no, that works.
I think that's something with coaching as well, that with obviously we know it, we've seen it for long enough to know that people aren't going to be peak strength all the time. Momentum for the majority of people isn't just this continuous thing. Like you're going to have peaks and troughs, and that's fine. You don't need to be strong year round. But I think with Instagram, especially, like I've got clients that really struggle, and I have to sit here and almost be therapist and be like, you don't need to be hitting PBs every single block, whether that's rep PBs or singles or whatever. You don't need to be able to bench your max every single block. Like that doesn't matter. Everything we're doing in between is still going to be getting you stronger. You're just not showing it at the moment. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't realize. And I think obviously coaches will realize it because we've done it for long enough. We see it all the time. But if you're just a powerlifter I don't know, you train around your uni mates and they've got less stressful courses than you, or they're not working a job on the side, or this, that, and the other, they might seem like they're progressing really well and you feel like you're not in comparison. Or you go on Instagram and you see people posting PDBs every few weeks. It's like, why am I not doing that? I'm like, you're not meant to be. And that's fine.
Yeah. Different context for different people. I think the biggest thing is like, I've had conversations with mates about this in the past, but one guy comes to mind. I won't name and shame him, but he used to like max out the top set every block. And I said to him, you know, you're never going to build momentum and you're just going to get injured. About 2 adductor strains later, he suddenly went, maybe I should take this more conservative. It's like, yeah, because you can actually chain momentum. And now his training's like flying. He's like really enjoying things. I said to him, oh, it's crazy. He's like, yeah, you might have been right. I was like, I know I was right, because you just can't do it. The only way you're going to be able to survive that is if you just perma-bulk. And then we run into the issue where you just gain unnecessary weight, right? So it is also a comparison. Again, people have different life stories, life stresses, courses. A med student versus, I don't know, like a sports science student, very different, you know. Again, experiences. There's things like, I've got a guy who started with me and he lost a load of weight and he got really ill, and then since he's been coming back, his strengths were gaining quickly, but also I'm aware that he is under the effects of a surplus. Like, he is just gaining weight back. He went from like 93 to 80 because he got really ill. And I'm like, a lot of this will be your first block back. We're going to pace things a bit more aggressively to try and get your baseline back. Things might flare up, like soreness, not quite injuries, but like aches and pains. We'll know. We'll back off a bit, and then we can rebuild it a bit slower. Just because I want to kind of step you up and then kind of rebuild. Yeah. And he was fine with that. And then along with the bulk, I know we could get away with it. But if it was someone who is like really stressful time, I would not pace things as aggressively as that. I'd be like, we're going to take things so slow. We'll actually, instead of doing 2 blocks per like big training cycle, we're going to do 3 or 4, because you actually need way more time to ramp up. Otherwise, you either fizzle out or you get injured something, and you just don't need it. And again, that comes with time. If I'm doing 3 or 4 blocks, we're talking anywhere between 12 to 20 weeks. Yeah. If someone's not got the patience for that, I don't think they're ready for proper powerlifting training. I think people think if I'm not PBing in the first, second, or third block, it's all wrong. If I haven't put 60 on my total in the first meet with a new coach, it's all wrong. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. That is a more glorification of people on Instagram who are either really good genetics from the start and they've got a big like base. Like, you see a lot of people transfer like from like rugby, like powerlifting, and then suddenly they're like squatting way more than average person. I was like, yeah, because I've done years of rugby, of course, right? And then you've got some guys that have never stepped into a gym, and they come into powerlifting, they're like, I'm not that strong. It's like, okay, but you're also stepping in from a different point, right? Genetics and sporting backgrounds, I always think of it like a head start in a race. Like, they are just going to be further ahead than you, but it doesn't mean you can't catch up at any point. It just might be a bit more graft to do that because they've spent so much time in the past building a base that you haven't, right? And it links back to what you said about how all of you guys are still around because you built the base, you fell in love with the gym, other components of fitness. Yeah. And I feel like that's phased out a bit. It's phasing back in 100%. I'm so glad it's phasing back in because I'm sick of seeing people like, so when I was training at the uni gym like a year ago, I was sick of people coming in, taking 2 hours to do a squat on a bench and then doing like 10 minutes on accessories. And it was like, it just wasn't really pushing anything. It was like, what was the point? You know what I mean? So I'm glad that's phasing back in. But yeah, that is one of those things where people just need to focus on the longer term. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it is, you know, the whole cliche, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's kind of true. Like, do you care about being really strong right now? Like, instantly, like, oh my God? Or do you want to be able to, you know, function when you're 30 and over? You know what I mean? Because powerlifting is like, I'm not going to dress it up for people. It's not great in the long term for people. You're compressing your skeleton with hundreds of kilos week on week. You know, if you push aggressively all the time and you never take a step back, you're kind of going to be useless by the age of 30. You know what I mean? If you only do that and never take steps off. The reason that people like, for example, Lewis can still powerlift at the age of like 30 plus is he doesn't just go max out. He steps back and then rebuilds. You know what I mean? It's the same with that. It's the idea you don't need to be strong all the time. And I know it's great being strong. Who doesn't love being strong? It's awesome. It's great. You get such a high from it, right? But it's not feasible. And if you're not careful, you will injure something and then you can't lift heavy forever, right? Yeah. And then it's just constant Instagram reels about how you're coming back from an injury that you've had 7 times. You've got to kind of be a bit more receptive to patience. And I think COVID really did a number on people's kind of awareness with patience and kind of long-term gratification. It's the age of like doom scrolling and short-term dopamine releases. So it's the same thing with lifting. If I'm not progressing, if I'm not doing this, you want a cheat code for that, coaches? Just give people really, really high rep primaries all the time. They'll PB like every block. You know what I mean? Just start with a top set of 5, then drop it to a 4, then a 3. There you go. I've given you a 3 blocks right there with a PR, probably everything. But it's like the enjoyment in those blocks are going to be different. You know what I mean? If I said to you, you got a primary set of 5, most of my lifters would be like, you taking the mic? I'm like, I'm not, but I could see why you'd say that. You know what I mean? Like, nobody's going to do that, especially if you've got someone who's like super long femored. You want me to fold in half 5 times at the beginning of at the end of a week and then get stronger at that? Brilliant. Just say you hate me. Okay, fair. Yeah, that's understandable. It is just also just, it is that, isn't it? It's you can't rush it. And I think everyone's always in a rush. Yeah.
Yeah, but everyone's like it with everything now. But I always say to my lifters that, you know, they want to get to a really high level within a couple of years. I'm like, that's fine, and we'll work towards it. But equally, I would rather you still be lifting pain-free in a couple of years and still be a year or two from your goals and actually able to get there, rather than rush to your goals, you get hurt, and then you quit entirely. Like, I'd rather you take a little bit longer, but still get there, than rush there. Because, like, you see it, like, and I'm sure you notice it as well, like, when a lifter does kind of come out of nowhere with a bit of a sporting background, but nothing too much, and they're suddenly at the top, I think most of us sit there that have been around for a while and they're like, but are they going to last? Because either they'll plateau, give up, or they'll get hurt and give up. Like, that's such a common
thing. This isn't to be a hater at all. No, this is not like a, oh, well, they're the big thing now and they won't. It's like a, okay, it's cool. But like from a general like health and long-term thing, I want them to actually do well. And if they just go down this, they're going to compress themselves into like oblivion.
And I think wish it on anyone, obviously. Like, I like to see people that come in strong. I'm like, where could you be in 5 years' time, right? I don't want you to get hurt, but equally, I'm scared that you might.
Yeah, and I think it's that ability to back off sounds almost scary, because it's like, well, that's not what I'm used to. And I think actually, I've got a guy I've taken on. He is stronger than he realizes, but he always rushes to do it. He's like, I want to do this. I want to do this. I get it. But I said this literally to him today. He's like, I really want to squat 250. And I went, yeah, I get it. But you're going to thank me the day you have a great meet and think of all the times I've had to hold you back from wanting to do something that just isn't worth doing right now, because you'll be healthier and happier. And he's like, yeah, I know, but like, I just really want to. I was like, I get it, but it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. I know you have these goals, but don't always set a time limit, because you put a load of pressure on it and you are more willing to mess up doing that. And equally, on the opposite side, I've got quite nervous lifters who actually need someone to go, you can do more than this. Stop talking yourself out of it. And like, it's kind of like a tough love approach of, you kind of need to be like, you can do this, just do it. Like, don't think about it in terms of what could go wrong. Find ways to, sometimes you need like mental techniques. How can you ground yourself to desensitize to the weight? Like, whatever's on the bar doesn't scare you now. You just focus on your cues or your execution. And again, different people need different things. The same guy I need to tell to hold back, I would never tell him to push randomly, because he doesn't need that. You know what I mean? Yeah.
We are going to have to wrap up because my headphones are about to die. But I think to summarize that whole thing there, even like, it just comes down to the people skills. You need to learn what each lifter needs. And as a coach, your job is to build up the person, the athlete, right? And it all links in together. And you need the people skills to be able to determine, okay, do you have the lack of confidence? Do you need me to sit here and tell you can load more, you can do this? Or do you need me to do the opposite and say, you could probably do that, but maybe not yet. Let's just wait. Like, you need, and there's a massive load in between as well. But I think it just comes down to your ability to obviously build that relationship with people and read people. And obviously working online, that's not always the easiest thing to do, but that's where having calls with people and having just like an open door of, you can message me anytime. Like, my clients, we don't have set check-in calls, but if they want a call, they just drop me a WhatsApp, like, oh, can we have a call soon? Yeah, sure. Like, that's all it is.
Yep. And you will learn more about that person the more you interact. Like, you're not going to know how to interact with someone the first week you work with them, but 6 months down the line, you probably have way more fluid conversations that you get more information out of. Right?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Perfect. We will wrap it up there. Did you want to just shout out where people can find you?
Yes. You can find me on Instagram at jasper.cc__, or the coaching page is at Quartz Strength Systems. I am taking on clients currently. So if anybody's interested and wants a bit more of a kind of maybe a more rehab approach as well, that's something I'm also looking at and offering. And any coaches for like mentoring, things like that is also something I'm offering at the moment, or trialing as a kind of free service first.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for joining me.
Of course.
Really appreciate it.